Also a good idea to not eat after, well, 6 o'clock. 4 o'clock is actually even better because then you actually digest and your stomach is empty by the time your system is shut down. So that's the basics of diabetes. It's a normal process, just like this happens in other animals too. And animals that hibernate, they get diabetes and insulin resistance, and then they go hibernate all summer, all winter long. And in the process of hibernation, what are they doing? They're burning fat. That's what they're doing. And then their insulin resistance goes down, and then they're able to go back out and eat afterward.
Here we go. Welcome, everyone. Just getting started here on the Fixed Blood Sugar webinar. And we're missing Leslie today. So she is recovering from a knee surgery. And so we are going to do our best to cover. Of course, it won't be as good, of course, without her here, but that's okay. Leslie, if you're watching this, we love you and hope you speedy recovery and all that. So praying for you. And but anyways, welcome everybody. Welcome, Dr. Saunders. It is type 2 basics today. Every other week we do the basics, and you get to teach us the basics, and then we get into Q&A. And we were just talking right before this that a lot of people really enjoy that Q&A time because a lot of times the questions people ask are questions as many people have and common things like that. So what would be a good way to have people interact with us on the chat this morning or afternoon here? People chiming in.
Send questions to the Q&A because it's a lot easier than sending them to the chat.
Yeah, at the bottom of Zoom, you'll see a Q&A section. And yeah, if you have questions, put them in there. That's really what this is for. And then the chat is fun just to say hello and share things, comments. If you have any sort of feedback or testimonials you'd like to share, people like to hear that too. It's encouraging to see that other people are going through this program and experiencing success. And then, so this is the program, the Diabetes Solution Kit from Barton Publishing. And most people that are joining the live call today already have a copy of this. If not the printed version, they have the digital copy. And if you're watching this and you don't have a copy yet, just go to bartonwebinar.com. That's where we are, where you can register to attend this webinar live and get your questions answered. And you can see the products like the Diabetes Solution Kit and Synachroma, Nervala, and other supplements that Dr. Saunders has formulated over the years. And also, let's see, the disclaimer that we like to get out of the way is that Dr. Saunders is probably not your doctor. So everything here is for general information purposes, and consult with your own health practitioner as they know you more specifically. So things
Some
like
of my patients actually watch this.
Yeah, I thought about that because sometimes Leslie says he is not your doctor, but I'm like, well, he might actually be some of your doctors. So. But all right.
Hi, Tim. I'm pretty excited about Steve Unger said that there's snow in Utah right now. It's snowing, and I'm going there this weekend to ski, or snowboard. So it'll be good.
Fun. All right. Hopefully I'm doing this right. If anyone notices like I'm not doing things right as far as like the camera and the view and all that, just let me know. I'll be following along in the chat here. But Dr. Saunders, let's turn things over to you.
Okay. So why do we do the basics over and over again? Like every other week, the basics? Yeah, you know what? This is, it came out of actually my own idea of every time I'd go over the basics, I'd go over just this little aspect of, well, it's a little different in that way, and it's a little different in that way. And I explain it in a different way each time. So it's been a long time. We used to discuss about an analogy, using an analogy of what is this like, you know? When you get diagnosed with diabetes, you go into your doctor's office and the doctor says, "Oh, you have diabetes. Here, take this, and we'll see you back in a month." And you're like, "Oh, okay. What does that mean? What do I have? What's going on here?" And we've had people call in tears, like I didn't get anything explained to me. Nothing happened, and I'm supposed to take this pill. I don't even know what it is and what it does, and it's really kind of frustrating sometimes. So I like to explain it in a way that people understand. So every other week we explain what's going on with diabetes. Why did this happen? And I want to tell you something a little different today than the way I've explained it before. Diabetes is perfectly normal and natural. It's the way your body's supposed to work. This is good. It's a good thing. So, for example, I was just learning about hummingbirds. Hummingbirds get diabetes every single night. They
Wow.
have to every night. They have to go out every day and eat enough sugar to get diabetes. Their blood sugar can be as high as 700. 700. For those of you in Canada, gosh, I don't even know what 700 is. It's probably over 10. I don't know. It's a lot. And so this is they have, and they get a bunch of fat. They get fat too. And then so why? Well, all night long while they're sleeping, guess what happens? They burn off all that fat or most of it. And so now they got to go out and find some more sugar. And so this is the back and forth of a hummingbird's life, right? They eat a ton of sugar, they get diabetes, and they make a bunch of fat, and then they burn off the fat overnight, and they burn off the sugar, they burn off the fat, and now they got to go eat more sugar. And they're just eating sugar water, right? That's all the nectar is. It's sucrose water. And it's what, your table sugar's made of. That's it. When we did the diabetes talk, our very first diabetes talk from South Dakota, we had 120 pounds of sugar stacked up. That's what an average person eats in a year. And we're saying, this is why you have diabetes, because of all that sugar that you eat. And you know what? It's true. And it's normal. And it's natural. And it's perfectly good. And that's what even a hummingbird, little teeny hummingbird, that's what they do. So what's the difference then? Why is there such a difference? Well, the hummingbird, think about it, every night uses it all up. They use it. They burn up all the fat. They burn up all the sugar. Their metabolism is so fast. Their temperature is like 102. That would be a fever for you. But for a hummingbird, they're like buzzing along. Their heart is beating at 300 times a minute. Their heart is beating like crazy, and their metabolism is so fast. They're burning sugar like crazy, and then so they use up that energy really fast. So then they got to go out and find more sugar, right? But they use it up. That's exactly what we want you to do. Exactly, no different. But they do it on a daily basis. They're like back and forth every day. But we're a little bigger and a little slower, and our metabolism is slower. So it's going to take a little longer for you to use it all up. So what we did is we created this diabetes solution kit where you're on a diet that you're not taking in for a period of time, whatever that time is. It could be days, weeks, months in some cases, hopefully not too many months, where you're not taking in enough sugar for your body to burn. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to burn fat, right? And so that's the same thing the hummingbird does overnight. Is it starts burning up all that fat, using up all the sugar, and then it starts using up all the fat. And by morning time, it's a skinny little hummingbird again. And it's got to go out and find a bunch of sugar and get fat again. So that's the kind of thing. We don't want you to necessarily do this over and over again, although some people do. we've had people on this program say, oh yeah, I got into phase 3 and then I started gaining weight again. I had to go back to phase 1. You know what? It's okay. You could do that. So here's how it works. It's really simple. You eat a lot, and that means either for a lot of food or over a long period of time. So people who eat 14 hours a day, if they spread out their meals 14 hours a day, they're going to gain weight. They're going to store. And part of the reason for that is, this is really interesting. Have you ever read a book called The Circadian Code by Satchin Panda? He explains about the circadian rhythm, and he went into detail about how the liver only works in the morning. You have your spike, your cortisol goes up in the morning, and that's why your blood sugar goes up in the morning. And it turns on everything. It turns on your liver, it turns on your digestive system and everything. And then by the evening, you're talking 6, 7 o'clock in the evening, that cortisol is down to it's below 1. It goes from like 10, between 10 and 20 to below 1. It's like down really low, 0.05. And so when it gets down that low, that shuts down your digestive system. So what happens? You just store everything as fat. So people who are eating at night, they're storing it. It's fat. And so you take the same number of calories. They've done this study in rats, and he explains this in the book, that where they take the same number of calories, if they give it to them over an 8-hour period in the morning, so they can eat as much as they want, and they get all those calories from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then and they don't gain weight, and they stay like normal rats. They're just normal. But if they give them the same number of calories and spread it out over 14 hours from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., they get fat. Why? Well, because when you're eating at night, you can't process that. So it just gets stored. You're just storing it all as fat. And you're storing toxins too, because the liver's not processing toxins. So that's why the fat stores the toxins too. There's all of that is part of the process. So in some cases, the reason that you put on the weight is because and get insulin resistant is because of the length of time in a day that you're eating. Other times it's just amount, and other times it's type of food. So you can eat too much, or you could not eat too much. You take the same number of calories and you put it into glucose, and you have high insulin levels, and insulin is doing the same thing the hummingbird does. Store. You're sucking up all that sugar and just storing it as fat to be used later. Well, the hummingbird uses it later. Now we have to train you to use it later. And that's the next step. That's what we're doing. So phase 1 of the program is you stop eating sugar and you start burning it off. So you're exercising to use up the sugar. And you get down, you start burning fat for energy. And a human being should be burning about 60% fat and 40% glucose. And what happens in diabetes is you get 60% glucose and 40% fat. And that is a problem because it causes inflammation. You have an unstable source of energy. The fat is a low octane fuel, like a diesel engine that can go all the way across the country and back. You can put 1 million miles on a diesel engine because it's a low octane fuel. It's low energy, low heat. There's not a lot of inflammation with that. Same thing in your body. If you're burning fat, you have low inflammation. If the ketone bodies, or the brain works better. If you have to run on sugar all the time, if you were on 100% sugar, you'd get so much oxidation, you'd be in inflammation all the time, you wouldn't live very long. You'd end up with cancer and diabetes and heart disease and all the inflammatory conditions, arthritis and stuff. So you don't want to burn, you want it to burn as little sugar as you can and as much fat as you can. Well, insulin blocks that. So what you eat is also very important. So if you're getting all your calories from sugar like the hummingbird, then you're going to have that same issue, and you blow up. So for all those reasons, we've chosen to give you this program that has a very low sugar. You can only eat 20 grams of carbs a day. That's not very much. It's not enough for your body to run on. And so forcing your body to burn fat. So you start using more fat for energy and less glucose for energy. And then your insulin resistance goes down and your insulin goes down so that you're not holding on to stuff. And then it's also a good idea to not eat after, 6 o'clock. 4 o'clock is actually even better because then you actually digest and your stomach is empty by the time your system is shut down. So that's the basics of diabetes. It's a normal process, just like this happens in other animals too. And animals that hibernate, they get diabetes and insulin resistance, and then they go hibernate all summer, all winter long. And in the process of hibernation, what are they doing? They're burning fat. That's what they're doing. And then their insulin resistance goes down, and then they're able to go back out and eat afterward. So that's why we have a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. We've set it all up for you, and it's easy. And it's like, I can't believe it. People pay me literally thousands of dollars. And you can buy this online for $20. It's like, I'm always amazed at that, how many people pay me for it when they can get it online cheap.
Well, it's the done for you solution, right? People need,
Yeah.
that's why I go to the gym and I have my trainer waiting there for me. I could do it myself, but like, nope, I know if it's waiting for me, I'm going to do it. Yeah. So
I test people, I guide them through, I give them information specific to them. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
People like that.
So what are some of the common stumbling blocks people face? Because there's other things that affect diabetes as well beyond just sugar. We've talked about artificial sweeteners quite a bit. What are some other trouble areas that people run into?
So the biggest trouble areas are, number one, the length of time, not stopping eating after dinner, and people who eat into the night are going to continue to have problems. That's a big one. So having in the morning when you eat, we call it breakfast, and that is you break your fast. What does the fast mean? It means you have an empty stomach. And the longer you have an empty stomach, the better. And so that's a big deal and a big stumbling block that people have. Another one is a patient I have right now that I'm just working with just since last week. And so she's texting me every day what she eats. And I got this really interesting text. It was everything she put in her mouth the day before. And so it was 7:02 a.m., 3 sips of water. 7:12 a.m., 3 sips of water. 7:25 a.m., 3 sips of water. And she just went through like 4 or 5 times an hour. She's 3 sips of water. There was this long list of sipping water all day long. And then there was 2 cups of bone broth in there, mixed in there. And I'm like, okay, that's another thing. I told her, don't be sipping water all day long. It's not good for you. You deplete your body of sodium. You need the broth because that has the sodium in it, and potassium. You need sodium and potassium. That's what keeps your blood volume up. Well, sodium keeps your blood volume up and potassium keeps your cellular volume up. And this is really important for preventing dehydration. Water is not usually the problem. We don't have a water deficiency as a rule. We have either a sodium or potassium deficiency because that's what holds on to the water in our bodies. So one of the stumbling blocks is putting things in your mouth. Just stop putting things in your mouth. Just drink the broth twice a day. Drink your 16 ounces twice a day, and then you don't need all that extra water and stuff. And she's like, what? I've been sipping water for years. I'm like, yeah, but that's part of what got you into this situation. So, and for a lot of people, it's not water, it's juice or sucking on something or chewing on gum, all of that stuff. Even if it's sugar-free gum and Coke Zero or something, it still causes insulin release and causes you to gain weight and causes diabetes.
Yeah. So All right. What are some other stumbling blocks? I think so. We've talked about like the artificial sweeteners or even stevia, any type of sweet things. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, sweet things are a problem because a lot of people who have type 2, they have a sweet tooth. And that's kind of what got them into that situation in the first place. In fact, I had a patient last week, and it was really funny. She's saying, "You're asking me to give up everything I like." And I'm like, "Oh, well, you got into this situation for some reason, and it's because of what you like that got you here." And so, yes, I'm asking you to give up what you like so that you can get out of the situation.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's a problem if you like sweet things and you say, okay, I'm not going to eat sugar, I'll just use stevia instead. Well, no, that doesn't work because sweet releases insulin, and when you release insulin, you create more insulin resistance. So it's not just a simple calorie thing. It's a hormone thing actually. Um, it's just like the hummingbird. They're eating sugar all day long, creating this insulin spike, and they're getting insulin resistant, and they're getting their blood sugars going up, and all that stuff that's happening. It's a hormone thing. Well, it's caused by eating, yes, but if and the sweets are what causes that hormone to be produced. So that's why no sweets, not even like gum, artificially sweetened gum. What's the one they use? Xylitol gum?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a big one.
What are some common nutrient or vitamin or mineral deficiencies that also can be stumbling blocks? Or that,
Yeah, yeah. It's much more difficult to control your blood sugar if you're missing a few things. So there's things that make the receptors, the insulin receptors, work better on cells, and one of them is vitamin D. And vitamin D is actually a very common deficiency. This is not a minor problem. Since practically all work now is moved indoors, there are very few people who work outdoors. If you're a gardener, you're doing road construction, but they work at night in California now, road construction. So, they're sleeping indoors all day long and then working at night. I don't know. There are very few people who are outdoors in the sunshine getting vitamin D. So traditionally, all the way back from the beginning of time, people who lived in very northern climates, they eat certain things like fish livers, cod liver oil. Guess what it has in it? Vitamin D. Does the codfish make vitamin D? No, no. They eat plankton that float on the top of the water, and the sunshine, the zooplankton, which is an animal type plankton, makes the vitamin D. They eat that, and so they're supplementing vitamin D because they can't make it from sunshine. And then the people eat the fish livers, and they get it because they're not getting it from the sunshine either. They have to get it from their food. So that's where a vitamin D supplement comes in, and so the amount of vitamin D is 5,000 gets you into a normal range. That's 5,000 units. Is 125 micrograms. The 10,000 unit dose gets you into the high normal level. So 5,000 will get you in the low normal. 10,000 will get you in the high normal. So another one is chromium. Chromium is a mineral that is very important for the enzyme that processes sugar, that helps us process glucose and use it. So if you don't have enough chromium, you can actually become diabetic from a chromium deficiency. And then you just add chromium, and all of a sudden, you no longer have diabetes. It can be that quick. Chromium deficiency. Vanadium is another one. Doesn't necessarily cause diabetes from a deficiency, but it is necessary for the use of the enzymes that are used to process glucose in our bodies. And then inflammation is an issue. So one of the things like glutathione is really important. So you have deficiencies of selenium, for example. Selenium is required to activate glutathione. It's a sulfation process. So there's these kinds of things are fairly common deficiencies. It's common to be deficient in chromium. It's common to be deficient in vitamin D. Not everybody is, but it's common enough that it's maybe worth taking a supplement for those.
What do you typically recommend? Like, what's an average recommendation for supplements for your patients that have type 2 from the products that we have or others, for example?
Yeah.
We have Synachroma, so yeah.
I like Synachroma. That's why we formulated it, because I looked at a whole bunch of others. So the first thing before we ever formulate anything, we look at what's out there, and oh, here's a good one. We could use that. And I couldn't find anything that had everything in it that was good, and not everything in it that was not good. So, for example, a lot of them had just tiny amounts of a whole bunch of herbs, like there's cinnamon and bitter melon and ginkgo, and they just put a whole bunch of herbs that help diabetes, but little teeny amounts of it. I'm like, that's not going to do anything, and so let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. No, not that. So we picked one, cinnamon, and you could use berberine. That's good too, but we picked one, cinnamon. And I told the reasons for that before. So that's why it was formulated that way. It was specifically for support, so that you don't have these deficiencies, so that it makes it a lot easier when you start doing the diabetes solution kit. You're going to go, oh, this is working for me. It's not like the pill cures diabetes. That's not what it does. Well, unless you have a chromium deficiency. Actually, we've seen that here on this program, where people typed in, I started taking Synachroma and I don't have diabetes anymore. It's like, wow.
Right. Yeah. All right. I'm going to get into some of the Q&A here. We got some good ones. So Tom asked, do carb blocker pills do anything?
No, don't even count on those. The carb blocker pills, some of them are ones that will prevent you from absorbing the carbohydrates. They cause intestinal problems. Other ones make you pee out carbohydrates. Those cause other problems too. You know what? It's so much simpler just to do the diabetes solution kit and not eat the carbs in the first place.
I agree. All right. Got a couple questions about CGMs, continuous glucose monitors, and I put something in the chat too. Like, if you are using a CGM, we'd love to kind of learn more. Like, what kind of brand do you use? What have you noticed from it? How long have you used it? So, do you have a recommendation for a certain brand?
A lot of that, when I prescribe them, it depends on insurance. So if the insurance covers one of them or the other one, then I'll go with that. People that don't have insurance, I usually use the Freestyle Libre. The Freestyle Libre is the one. It's less expensive. It's 14 days instead of 10 days. So you get 2 of them a month instead of 3. And I think it costs about, if you go to Costco, it's about $80 for each one. So it's $160 for a month. Not bad.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to take my blood sugar reading here while we're talking here, and I'll maybe share that with everyone, and we could have more learning from there. But let's get to the next one here. Synachroma has less cinnamon than other brands of cinnamon and chromiums. Should I take more to lower my sugar from 145 to 104?
No. The purpose is not specifically to lower your sugar. It's specifically to make you more sensitive to insulin. And so you want to be insulin sensitive. That's really what you want, because that's what keeps your brain functioning, your kidneys functioning, your heart functioning. You don't want to have the complications. So take the Synachroma one a day, just like that, and then do the diabetes solution kit until your blood sugar comes down to between 70 and 90. So do phase 1 of the program. That's where you start.
Okay, here's my reading, 103. I just had lunch 90 minutes ago, so how's that?
That's perfect. That's fine.
Great. I've been borderline pre-diabetic for quite a long time, and so I've been working more on trying to eat better, and so my numbers have gotten better, and kind of trying to practice what we preach here. I'm not as good as Tyler, though. Tyler on our team, he's been stopped eating at 3 o'clock every day and doesn't eat again until 11 a.m. the following day. So he's doing 20 hours every day of fasting. So,
and he says the results are amazing.
Yeah.
He says he feels better. He has more energy. His blood sugar's normalized, like everything. His sleep got better too.
I think his sleep is struggling a little bit right now with his wife having, but yeah, his energy is way better. He said he's lost a little bit of he has struggles with a little bit of the belly fat area that can be like really stubborn and hard to lose that sometimes. And so yeah, that's been really helpful for him and others as well. So good stuff there. Glad to hear my sugar numbers are. I was actually pleasantly surprised when I saw it. I'm like, oh, if it's 170, I'm in trouble. But I think the most I've ever seen is like 130, 132, something like that. So that's probably fine. So, all right, Harry, I began a fast with the intent of it lasting about 90 hours. When I hit 36, my A1C dropped into hypoglycemia, forcing me to end the fast. What can I do next time to extend the fast?
Okay, next time, just continue to fast. So hypoglycemia is relative, right? Because partially, if your body's used to your blood sugar being at 200 and you drop it to 100, then you may experience symptoms of hypoglycemia. For example, there was a study in rats where diabetic rats, where they got their blood sugar down to 40. And 40 is real hypoglycemia. That is low blood sugar. And that's when you get fatigue and headaches and you can't think clearly, brain fog, all of that is happening while you have this low blood sugar at 40. But after 4 days, these rats were up running around and they're just acting like normal rats. And they're going, what the heck? They checked their blood sugar, it's still 40. How could they're hypoglycemic technically. So they did a biopsy of their blood-brain barrier and they found 10 times the number of glucose transport proteins getting sugar into the brain. So these proteins are just sucking sugar into the brain. There's 10 times more of them. And so that's kind of the way to look at it. When you get hypoglycemia, it's relative hypoglycemia because you have type 2. You're not going to go into the 20s or 30s and get brain damage from it. So when your monitor is saying you're 50, you know what? It's okay. It'll go up, and it'll take 10 or 15 minutes to go up. It doesn't take that long. And in the meantime, because you're getting low, you'll start making more glucose transport proteins to protect your brain and your kidneys from hypoglycemia. So it's actually good for you to have that hypoglycemia. So that's what you do next time, 90 hours.
All right. I have flashbacks of my dad when I was a teenager. We were on a fishing vacation, and he passed out in the bedroom like from low blood sugar, and he thought he was gonna die, and we were a little concerned, but he popped back up after an hour or so, and yeah. But he has to watch that because it can be triggered by too much sugar. Like if he eats pancakes in the morning and that's it, like, oh, look out, like it's not good. So yeah. All right, this is the one that makes me a little uneasy, but I'm going to get to it. The drink with rum and peanuts. So we talk about rum-soaked peanuts. How many times a day can I take that before my meals? Oh.
Are you going to answer that, or you want me to answer?
Oh, all right. So, I mean, we're marketers, right? We got to get the message out to people. So we use things like rum soaked peanuts to get people's attention. But that does not mean we're telling people drink rum and eat lots of peanuts. Like, if anything, soak the peanuts in rum, have a few, and it will, like, it'll bring your sugar down. But that is not like we do that so that we can introduce people to this, which doesn't teach that, and to Cinechroma, which is much healthier. So, anything more you want to add to that?
No, that's it. That's pretty much what the marketing people said.
Yeah.
It gets clicks.
It gets clicks. All right. Okay, here's a fun one. Zombie cells. I have never heard of zombie cells, but it must be somebody must be, again, maybe a marketing thing, but what are zombie cells covering a pancreas? Have you heard of this? Is it a scam?
I don't know what zombie cells are.
Tell us
Um,
more. Karen and I think Bilo asked about it as well. So, yeah, if anyone has more info, like where you heard about this, give us some more info and we'll get to that one.
that might have been named for a name that they use for senescent cells, or the cells that are still, they're awake. They're like half dead. They're awake, but they're asleep. They're there. They're living, but they're asleep. They don't work. That kind of
Okay.
thing.
We'll see if we get any more info on that. So, Sylvia, I'm a borderline pre-diabetic. I've noticed that my blood sugar level right before bed is between 110 to 120 since I've been tracking. Yet when I wake in the morning, blood sugar's up to 132 to 133. I stop eating early, so it shouldn't go up. What can I do to better bring my morning blood sugar levels down? This is a pretty common question. So I'm glad we're getting into this one.
Yeah, it's called the dawn effect. So the dawn effect is the morning effect. When you release a whole bunch of cortisol in the morning, it makes you insulin resistant. But at the same time, because you haven't eaten, then your pancreas puts out something called glucagon, which tells your liver to make more sugar. So now you're making sugar and you're insulin resistant because of the cortisol. So your blood sugar spikes in the morning before you've eaten anything. You don't have to eat anything because that sugar is coming from your liver is making extra. So what do you do about that? Do phase one of the program. When you're in phase one, as you get more and more insulin sensitive, that effect goes away completely. And then you should be 70 to between 70 and 90, or if you're in Canada, between 4 and 5, consistently. And if you're consistently there, then that's when you move on to phase two.
All right. John, I was recently diagnosed with type 2, 295 glucose, 12.5 A1C. My doctor put me on metformin, glipizide for 30 days, which helped bring my glucose down to 178, but I didn't like how it made me feel over time. Do I have any other choices beside insulin with needles to help control my new and unwanted condition?
Oh, good for you. Okay. That's an excellent question, and that's why you're here. And that's what we're teaching is exactly that. We're here for people like you, specifically. So, and here's what makes it really easy. The answer to your question is, of course. That's why we wrote the book. The book is all about what you do instead. So for those people who don't want to be on insulin, who don't want to be on glipizide or metformin or whatever other medication, then what they do is they start the book. So before you stop your medications, you don't just stop them all of a sudden. You go on phase one of the program and you start doing it, and you keep track of your blood sugar. And as your blood sugar's going down, because you're not eating a lot of sugar anymore, your blood sugar is going to drop down. As it drops down, you need to call your doctor and say, I need to get off of one of these medications. And the first one to get off is going to be glipizide, because glipizide can cause hypoglycemia, which I was just talking about is okay, but don't stay on glipizide to cause hypoglycemia. Not a good idea. And then as it drops down more, then you'll have to get off the other one, and you won't need insulin. And there's one other thing you should do. You should tell your doctor to test your insulin C-peptide, because you already know your blood sugar and hemoglobin A1C. You just need that insulin level and C-peptide level just to determine the function of your pancreas. Because if your insulin is 30, that's a lot of insulin, and you have way too much insulin. And you can drop load. You definitely don't need to inject insulin. But if your insulin is 5 or 4 and your blood sugar is 270 or 170, then there may be an issue there. You may need insulin. But I have somebody that had type 1 diabetes, 0 insulin production, 0, none. And it's been 2 years we've had on our program an autoimmune protocol because she had autoimmune diabetes in her pancreas was being attacked by her immune system. And so we put her on the autoimmune protocol. And just like a few weeks ago, we talked about this before, her insulin came up positive, like she's making insulin now. And now just this week, she came back, she's off insulin, and her glucose is hanging around in the upper 100s, 180, 190. But it's pretty consistent at this point. So, and she's off all insulin, no more insulin. So that's good.
Yeah. All right. So let's see. Mark said his A1C is 6.1. He's taking Jardiance and Trulicity 3.0. Do I still need these meds? Similar question.
What was the hemoglobin A1C?
6.1.
6.1 is like pre-diabetes. Jardiance is one of those that just makes you pee out extra glucose. I would say this: if you're 6.1, you should be in phase 1 of the program and get it down to 5.4, and then you won't need those medications at all.
Yeah. All right. Antonia, when do doctors prescribe insulin, and how high is the glucose with this when it's prescribed?
So that's a great question, because the rule is that insulin is prescribed when it can't be controlled otherwise. And otherwise means with dietary measures and with oral medications. So the medications that you take, most of them, or even the injections, the incretin injections, sitagliptin and all those, they cause extra insulin to be made, and that extra insulin is supposed to bring down the blood sugar. And so if you're taking the oral medications or doing the other injections and it's not working, then insulin is prescribed because those aren't working. But that's an indication that there's an awful lot of insulin resistance. And I've had people on very high doses of insulin and get off entirely and become normal because their pancreas was working all the time. The pancreas wasn't shut down. So what you need to do is get a test called an insulin test or a C-peptide test. The reason for the C-peptide is because that peptide is only made by the pancreas. It's not going to be part of insulin injections. If you're measuring insulin and you're injecting insulin, then you don't know how much your pancreas is making and how much you injected. You don't know. The test is not useful. But if you do both of them together, then you could see the relative, if you have high levels of insulin, then that means you have a lot of insulin resistance, right? So we need that. But also the C-peptide to see how much of that is coming out of the pancreas. So you do both of those tests.
All right. Mirabella Buttery, that is a great name. I just got to say, it makes me want to go have a nice Italian meal in Florence or something. So I have consistently had A1C around 6.6.5 since 1985 to now, despite taking supplements such as berberine, glucose function, and several others. I'm fairly consistent with my diet. I don't drink fruit juices, sodas, etc. No sugary foods. I eat mostly proteins, veg, very little carbs, no gluten. What could likely be my problem?
Low insulin production would be the most likely problem. and that'll give you pretty consistent numbers of elevated glucose. And the reason is because your hemoglobin A1C is an average, and you're averaging over about 3 months. And so when you're taking that average, it's going to be, you're going to have some high ones and you're going to have some, well, normal ones, and they're going to average out to a certain level, right? And so if you're 6.6, that's technically diabetic. That's actually the definition of diabetes, over 6.5. So that is diabetes. But since 1985, that's a long time to be diabetic. And and you probably don't have any of the complications from it, like kidney disease or brain disease, if you have low insulin, because it's really insulin resistance that causes all those problems and not high blood sugar. So that would be an interesting thing to do, a test to do, to check your pancreas. Again, the same thing, do a C-peptide and an insulin level.
Yeah. Is drinking a full glass of water after getting up good for the system in the morning?
I've heard that, and I've read that. I know a lot of people that do that, and I watched a YouTube video. What's the guy's name? Huberman, the Huberman report.
Yeah.
He talks about that. He says, I do that every day now. I get up and I put some electrolytes, some the salt in water, and I drink it down first thing. And he talked a little bit about why salt is not the villain that it was made out to be. In fact, it's really, really important. And people on low sodium diets actually get more vascular disease than people who are on high sodium diets. And the problem was not sodium all along. It was other reasons, like a lack of potassium, for example. Anyway, so there, and it seems like there is some benefit to doing that. And so I don't know if it's any better to squeeze the lemon in the water or put the salt in the water. You're getting some electrolytes. The lemon also has some potassium in it too. So I don't know, but I think it's a good idea generally.
D-ribose is one supplement good for the heart, but is it a good idea if the person is diabetic?
Yeah, well, it is sweet, right? We just got through telling you don't eat anything that's sweet, and here you have D-ribose. It's important for making DNA, and you can get it from food, and it's not hard to get. It's just that there are so many people with heart disease who live on foods that don't have D-ribose, that they're not eating fruits and vegetables, and so the supplement is for them. But if you're on I don't know, if you're eating vegetables and stuff, you're going to get plenty of D-ribose. It's not going to be a problem.
All right. Let's see. I'm often starving by 10 p.m. This is a stumbling block. What do I do?
Oh, yeah. Okay,
9.
Hunger. Okay. Thank you for that. Now, I'm going to give you permission to be hungry. It's perfectly okay to be hungry. So when you're hungry, you're making a hunger hormone. It's called ghrelin, G-H-R-E-L-I-N. It's growth hormone releasing hormone. And if every time you get hungry, you immediately go and eat, then you shut off the ghrelin. If you drink water, you shut off the ghrelin. This is stretch receptors in the stomach. And so if the stomach is empty, it's making ghrelin. And that's what causes the growling of your stomach. And that's actually cleaning out the small intestine. And then that hunger hormone is growth hormone releasing hormone. And the growth hormone, you get a spike of growth hormone at 10 p.m. That's why you have to be asleep at 10. If you're not asleep, you don't get it. That spike causes the anabolic metabolism, and that's where you repair everything in your body. You repair all the autoimmune diseases that you have. You repair Alzheimer's disease. This is amazing. It is not only okay to be hungry. Let me go past giving you permission to be hungry. I will demand that you be hungry. The more hungry you are, the better off you'll be. The longer you're hungry, the better off you'll be. Hunger is your best friend. Okay? Let me say that again. Hunger is your best friend, and having a full stomach is your worst enemy. So um, that is as clear as I can be about it.
Yeah, that's really good. It doesn't take too long to realize that, like to make that connection and feel that too. I've noticed that for sure. So
Yeah,
yeah,
when I get
like
hungry, sometimes I'm
yeah,
famished and I'm searching for food everywhere. I need food. And then I go, wait a minute, it's okay to be hungry. And you know what? As soon as I acknowledge that it's okay to be hungry, it's like, oh, okay, just move on.
yeah, I love that. That's awesome. Phase one menu items, okay, Beverly, are heavily dependent on eggs, to which I'm very sensitive. Enough that my flu shots must not be grown on eggs. I'm using cream cheese and lox. Natural cheeses melted on whole grain thin bread, 13 carb grams, sometimes even mixed veggies with chicken or salad with tuna. Do you have any other suggestions?
Wow, you're smart. That's great. Yeah, you could just expand that out, and you could be doing a salmon salad in the morning, or I had stir fry veggies. I prefer vegetarian, but yeah, you can. There isn't any. It doesn't have to use eggs. And if you tolerate milk, then you can have cheese. If you don't, then you don't use cheese, and that's okay. But just don't forget about all of those free foods that you have. All you can have all the broccoli you want, and so look at that list of free foods, and pick from that.
What is it about eggs that some people are sensitive to? Is it the food that the chickens eat?
Um, Gosh, I don't know if it is. People are generally sensitive to the proteins found in the food in the eggs. So the egg white has a albumin in it that some people react to, and the reason people react to those proteins is kind of like gluten, the same thing from wheat. Is it's not easily digested by the acid in the stomach, so it isn't. It's called denature, where you take a protein that's actually a wadded up ball of thousands of amino acids. It's all wadded into a ball, and then it goes into your stomach, and the acid causes the denaturing of the protein. In other words, it unwinds and comes out, and has this. It's thousands with branches all over it and everything, and then the enzymes can cut it up into pieces. If you have certain proteins that don't denature very easily, especially in eggs and milk and wheat. And because of that, they'll go through the stomach. If you have low stomach acid, they'll go through your stomach and they'll create reactions. And then it becomes hard because then you have reactions for a long time.
All right. Let's see. I'm trying to pick a few of the best questions as we're getting close to the top of the hour here. So zombie cells are cells that are not working and not dead. They surround several organs and prevent insulin from getting out of the pancreas, basically smothering it. There's a company selling a tincture for an enormous sum of cash per bottle, and they swear that it'll remove zombie cells within a week to 90 days. They say it will completely cure type 2 diabetes. It sounds scammy, but I'm desperate because my blood sugar is over 250 all of the time, on or off meds and supplements. I have MS, and the type 2 diabetes really aggravates it. I'm currently on baclofen for spasms and nothing else. I refuse Western meds.
Except for the baclofen. Yeah, that's a muscle relaxant. Okay, so yeah, that's really hard. You're in a really hard position, but it's unlikely to be that zombie cells are your problem. So it's not that you should just grasp at every straw that you see, every marketing advertisement that comes to you. You don't just throw yourself at it. Instead, do some research and look at why. Why is your blood sugar so high all the time, no matter what? That doesn't make sense unless maybe your pancreas isn't producing enough insulin. Maybe you have insulin antibodies. Maybe you have insulin receptor antibodies. Maybe you have islet cell antibodies. So looking for testing for all these things so that you know exactly what you're dealing with and say, oh, this is the problem, and then dealing with that. So if you were to do an insulin test and find out that your insulin is, 20 or 30 or 50, then you'd say, my problem is not zombie cells. My pancreas is pumping out insulin like crazy. The problem is insulin resistance. So now I got to do phase 1 of the program. So look at why first, and deal with the why. So we have this program, this diabetes solution kit. What is it for? Well, it's for a majority. It's going to cover most people. There's always going to be some that have some weird issue. So let's talk about one other one just briefly. And that is, if you're consistently at 250 no matter what, you probably have an adrenal problem. So look for your adrenal problem. So look for cortisol levels, do the metanephrines, and then look at aldosterone and DHEA, and look at your adrenal function, because that may be your issue.
All right, Michelle, I'm a vegan, plant-based, so I eat lots of carbs. What do you consider harmful carbs?
Oh, harmful carbs are anything that aren't fiber. All the good carbs are fiber, so you can eat all the fiber you want. So if you were to eat celery, for example, I saw a study I don't know how true it is, but you use up more calories chewing and digesting celery than you actually get from the celery. So it's a negative. So that's so the harmful things are the ones that have glucose, that are sugar, especially fructose, and sugar and starch. And then the good carbs. So if you're vegan, man, you can go. I looked it up one time for a patient of mine, a vegan ketogenic diet. And if you look up vegan ketogenic diet, you're going to get a whole bunch of websites on all of the good carbs that you can eat on this program.
Good. All right, speaking of fructose, this is a question I hadn't seen before. Paul says, I just got my first fructosamine results since starting the diabetes solution kit 3 weeks ago. It's 228. The normal ranges say it's 205 to 285. So is my reading indeed normal, or is this a function of lots of bad readings in the greater population?
No, and that's actually normal. Fructosamine is something that is a more short-term average blood sugar idea. It gives you the short-term average of a few days, instead of the hemoglobin A1C that's a long-term average of a few months. So that's the difference.
All right. Last question. This is a good one to close with. Raylene, how long do we do phase 1?
Okay, you do phase 1 as long as you need to. So, for example, some people who are real go-getters, they're going to rush in. They're going to count carbs. They're going to get under 20 grams of carbs every single day. And they're going to do the program, and they're going to be done in a week or 10 days or something like that. It's gonna go really quick. Other people kind of ease into it. They read about it. They try a little bit, and they're decreasing their carbs to 40 grams. Okay, I could do that. And then they're getting to 30 grams. And so they kind of like when you're getting when we go into the ocean, we kind of like, some people just dip their toe in and let the wave wash up over their ankles. And some people just rush right out into the water and splash around there, and they're all wet right off. So how you do it is really important. And so how do you know? Well, when your blood glucose is between 70 and 90, or if you're in Canada, between 4 and 5, that's 4 point something, then you're pretty much ready to move on. And so how long that takes depends on you.
All right, Dr. Saunders, I'm going to stay on for a little bit. I thought of an idea. We're going to practice the hummingbird technique as you depart here. I think we're going to do some arm circles. No,
Oh,
we're going
okay.
to get the blood
Oh,
flowing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So thank
Yeah.
you,
You
Dr.
can do it
Saunders.
as fast as a hummingbird.
We'll see you next time. All right, he's out of here. He's got to see patients, but I want to see you guys join me. We're going to do some practice what we preach here, guys. Let's get moving. Let's get practicing. We're going to start burning off some sugar. So stand up if you can. Do some arm circles. Flap like a hummingbird. I don't know how we're supposed to do this, but like you could do some air squats like this or high knees. Let's get those arms moving. We're going to do this for 60 seconds. So we've been doing this for about, I suppose, 10 seconds now, I would imagine. I've been doing it for 25 seconds, but come on now, join me. I can't see you, but I'm trusting that you guys are moving now. This is a big part of it. We're practicing, we're putting into practice what we're learning. We're going to try to have some hunger pains later today by not eating. Maybe we just stop eating right now. We're not going to eat any more food today. How's that sound? It's early enough in the day. Your body's going to start working and burning off sugar and burning off some fat. You're going to see those blood glucose numbers coming down, and we're going to celebrate the progress. So good job. I don't want to see too many comments right now because I don't think you can type and do what we're doing right now. Whew. 10 more seconds. Let's go. Burn off some energy. Ooh, your breath should be a little bit winded right now. And we're doing the hummingbird. If hummingbirds can reverse diabetes every day, well, I think humans can reverse it too with doing the right things, practicing the right habits. And there we go. All right. Hey, put me in the chat. Ryan says, whoo, way to go, Ryan. Thanks for joining me. Who else joined me? Did you join me? Tell me, say yeah. Tell me what you did. How was it? How's your heart rate feeling? How are you feeling? You feeling better after that? We get your breath work going. We're breathing a little bit better. We're getting that oxygen into our bodies. So great stuff. Do more. I watched you as I was eating lunch. Okay, well, that's honest. I appreciate it. All right, seeing lots of good, lots of yeses, lots of LMAOs. All right, laughing my off. Yeah, need to do this 2 times or more a day. So actually, I've been talking to someone. We got a fun little project that we're working on here at. Oh, Dave flew away. We're working on at Barton Publishing. We're actually gonna be coming up with some muscle building products, and not so much to get like jacked or anything, but it's more like maintaining muscle as we age. And part of that is protein is huge, and then creatine also has tons of good studies on it, and then electrolytes. So those 3 things are going to be keep your eyes peeled for that coming later this year, 2024. So, and one of the things that we're going to be teaching is what we're going to call snacksercise. So imagine every day, 5 times a day, you get a text from us and it says, all right, 60 seconds, do some air squats, just 60 seconds, burn them out. Let's go. You're like, okay, all right, I'm going to do it. And then when you're done, give us a thumbs up in your text message or whatever. So, but I love that idea. Snacksercise. It's like a little snack during the day. Like, yeah, instead of like, everyone loves snacks, but snacks aren't usually good for us. Like when we eat snacks. So what if we do exercise snacks? And it's like, imagine how you're going to feel at the end of the day after you've done 5 1-minute sessions of air squats or push-ups or jumping jacks or hummingbird flaps or whatever it might be. So that's what we're working on. It's exciting. I love this, and it's going to improve our breathing. It's going to improve blood sugar numbers, and we're just going to be living healthier, happier lives. This guy right there, that's what he built us for, to be enjoying all the fruits of our labor and the life that he's given us. And so, speaking of which, I got to go to the gym. I work out a couple times a week with my friend and trainer. He keeps me accountable. I go do some strength training. I could do it at home, and I do some at home as well, but I'm heading to the gym because it's just good to do that, to move and to keep those muscles growing. And so it's super important. That's part of part of what we teach in the Diabetes Solution Kit program. So anyways, enough for me. Keep up the good work, everyone. We'll see you guys next week. And also, we do have the heart health webinar that is tomorrow at noon Central, I believe. So if you go to bartonwebinar.com, you can register for that. And if you're watching this recording on YouTube, you can go to bartonwebinar.com and register for the fixed blood sugar webinar, which we are just wrapping up right now. Episode I don't know, 220 something like that, maybe even more than that. But appreciate you guys. Keep up the good work and see you next time. God bless. Take care. Bye-bye.